Now, let's talk about databases. Historically, a healthcare encounter used to be documented by physicians with a paper based system and filed away. Okay, very manual process. The paper system was the primary mode of documenting the patient medical record and information, along with communicating among different physicians, departments, or hospitals. As healthcare evolved, it got increasingly harder for healthcare professionals to keep the records accurate and to keep just an accurate record of patients' medical information on a paper based system. So, with the implementation of multiple national efforts into health IT, healthcare organizations started the process of using a database to collect a store of patient data. A database is a collection of all the related data on every single encounter of a patient. A database management system is a software that one could use to store, maintain, and retrieve data from the databases. So, for the healthcare organization, they may use a relational database management system, which help the user connect the data points within the database to one another, and it does make it it makes it a relational. And so Microsoft Access is an example, is a great example of this type of relational database. Um, yes, and let's move on to the next. And so, looking at relational database terms, typically data in a database is organized into tables. A table is a collection of data and related information. A table consists of rows of information and or data that go across the left to right, which are called columns, and which are information of data that go from top to bottom is the columns. Left to right are the actual rows. So a person that's responsible for managing the database may need to conduct what you call some type of update frequently or periodically, depending on how static the database is. Data updates refer to the need to update the data within each of the tables to stay current. So they're looking at those rows and columns, making sure that information is current. So take a look at table 8.1 in your book that shows a sample table with the associated rows, which is the record, and columns, which is the fields. Now, a primary key is set to uniquely identify each of the records in a table. A secondary key creates the relationship between tables, and there are a combination of different types of relationships that exist. Typically, in the database terminologies, these are called entity relationship diagrams. Data analytics function are performed for a reason. So some of the most common reasons include using data assets such as electronic health record and other information systems such as purchasing or patient registration or insurance system to assist stakeholders in making key decisions. Now, decisions often includes ways to improve quality of care, to deliver while containing costs. Data assets are also used in the health sector for research and development purposes. Some computer systems, such as the EHR, are smart and have data analytics capability programmed in their operations. The ongoing proliferation of electronic health records used in the industry have essentially made every patient eligible to be a participant in ongoing clinical trials. Assuming that the correct research authorization occurred, including review by the Institutional Review Board, the IRB, of organization, data for clinical trials can be directly extracted from the EHR as opposed to expensive, time-consuming activities that involve the manipulation of paper charts and the manual recurrent of patients' into various clinical trials. One of the most powerful classes of tools in the EHR clinical environment that enhances clinical research is the presence of disease registries. This functionality is most often manifested in EHR softwares by flagging patients' record that meet certain criteria for research studies. For example, the software can be programmed to alert stakeholders when patients meet the age, the demographic, and the physiologic criteria related to persons with diabetes. The structure of data governance program theories, and this is where we're getting into data governance. And the structure of it, some organizations have a centralized organization model, including a data governance office led by a chief data officer. Sometimes these functions report through the health information department. Also, and this is where we're talking about just pretty much governing data. So when we're talking about governing our data assets, this is where data governance come into play. Some organizations administer data governance function as a highly decentralized manner with clinical data management committees reporting to the chief information officer and financial data management office. So regardless of the organization structure, data governance, the whole function of it, exists for the purpose of advising the organization and decision related to effective management of data assets. So these are a designated group of people coming together to really help put some structure around how we should manage our data as a key enterprise asset. So governing data assets requires a couple of things. One, some of the common elements of the data governance practice is policies and procedures, systems and data access, systems and data standards, policies with regard to data privacy and security, how we're sharing our data, who actually has the ownership of the data, who are the stewards that is managing the day in and day out of the data. These are like the subject matter experts around the data. And then just that day-to-day operational responsibility around our key enterprise assets. So we've reviewed several things about data, the big data part of it, the analytics around it, how we should govern it. And this pretty much ends this part of our session.